General audiences numbers 109 and 110, delivered in a truncated fashion on May 30th, 1984. Both the femininity of the bride and the masculinity of the bridegroom speak without words. The language of the body is a language without words. At the same time, that language becomes in her and also in him a source of inspiration for the words, for that singular language of love, which seeks means of expression and poetic metaphor. For us today, the metaphors of the Song of Songs sound archaic, but nevertheless, that which they express, as well as the very force with which they are expressed, have kept their value. The language of the body is interpreted as a language of the heart by both the bride and the bridegroom. It is possible that the bridegroom man expresses more directly the beauty of the bride and her own attractiveness, being aware of it above all with the eyes of the body. The bride, by contrast, looks rather with the eyes of the heart through her affection. Both, at any rate, he and she, together express in the verses of the song wonder and amazement, not only for the eye of the other in his or her feminine or masculine revelation, but also for the love by which this revelation is revealed. The words of the bridegroom are therefore a language about love, and at the same time a language about the femininity of the bride, which appears on account of love, so worthy of amazement and admiration. In the same way, the words of the bride also express admiration and fascination and amazement, since they are a language about love and a language about the masculinity of the bridegroom. What the words of both express is therefore a particular experience of values that irradiates over everything that stands in relation to the beloved person. Your lips distill honey, my bride. Honey and milk are under your tongue, and the scent of your garments is like the scent of Lebanon. Song of Songs, chapter 4, verse 11. We find here, always with a special coloring, the themes that fill the literature of the whole world. The presence of these elements in this book that enters into the canon of sacred scripture shows that they and the related language of the body contain a primordial and essential sign of holiness. My sister, my bride. To pursue under another aspect our analysis of this apparently uniform rhythm of the duet of love between the bridegroom and the bride, let us quote the words on which we should dwell in a particular way. The bridegroom says, "You have ravished my heart, my sister, my bride. You have ravished my heart with one glance of your eyes, with one bead of your necklace. How sweet are your caresses, my sister, my bride." Song of Songs, chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. For the theology of the body, and in this case for the theology of the sacramental sign, it is a matter of essential importance to know in this duet, dialogue of love, who the feminine you is for the male I, and vice versa. See Theology of the Body, Audience 43, paragraph 7. The bridegroom in the Song of Songs says first, quote, "You are all beautiful, my friend," from Song of Songs, chapter 4, verse 7, and in the same context addresses her as my sister, my bride, from verse 9 of chapter 4. He does not call her by her proper name. Only twice does the name Shulamite appear, but uses expressions that say more than the proper name. Under a certain aspect, the name and appellation of the bride as sister seems to be more eloquent and more rooted in the Song of Songs as a whole in comparison with calling her friend. The term friend indicates what is always essential for love, which puts the second I besides one's own I. Friendship, the love of friendship, amor amicitiae, signifies in the song a particular approach of the bride's feminine I, a mutual approach felt and experienced as an interiorly unifying power. The fact that in this approach the feminine I is revealed for the bridegroom as sister, and that she is bride precisely as sister, has a particular eloquence. The expression sister speaks of union in humanity, and at the same time of feminine diversity, of the originality of this humanity. This difference and originality exists not only with regard to sex, but to the very way of being a person. If being a person means both being a subject, but also being in relation, the term sister seems to express in the simplest way the subjectivity of the feminine I in its personal relation, that is, in its openness toward others. Toward the neighbor, the particular addressee of this openness becomes the man understood as brother. The sister, in some sense, helps the man to define and conceive himself. She becomes, I would say, a challenge in this direction. One can say that the bridegroom of the song accepts this challenge and gives a spontaneous answer to it. When the bridegroom in the Song of Songs addresses the bride with the word sister, this expression signifies also a specific rereading of the language of the body. This rereading is unfolded explicitly in the duet of the spouses. Oh, that you were a brother to me, who nursed at my mother's breast. If I met you outside, I could kiss you, and no one could despise me. I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother. The bridegroom responds, do not stir up, do not awaken the beloved until she wants it. And a little further on, we have a little sister, and she still has no breasts. What shall we do for our sister on the day when she is spoken for? And again, the words of the bride, I am a wall, and my breasts are towers. Thus I am in his eyes as the one who has found peace. From Song of Songs, chapter 8, verses 1, 2, 4, 8, and 10. The passages just quoted are sufficient proof that the bridegroom of the bride accepts the challenge in relation to the feminine I contained in the term sister. These passages also clarify what it means that the man turns to this sister as to his bride, because the bride remains for him his sister. This is the reason for the convergence and not divergence of both expressions and both references. The term sister used in the song belongs certainly to the language of the body. This is also evident in the verses quoted above, to the language of the body reread in the truth of reciprocal spousal love. At the same time, in a simple but firm way, this term seems to overcome the original determination of this language and of this love by libido alone, and to open its entire content in a wholly original manner to the expression bride, when this expression is joined in the mouth of the bridegroom with the term sister. Audience 110. The words of the bridegroom addressed to the bride as sister, as well as her words in the same relation, are impregnated with a particular content. Love, as we see in the verses quoted above, pushes both to seek the common past, as though they descended from the same family circle, as though from infancy they had been united by memories of the common hearth. In this way, they reciprocally feel as close as brother and sister, who owe their existence to the same mother. A specific sense of common belonging follows from this. The fact that they feel like brother and sister allows them to live their reciprocal closeness in security and to manifest it. I could kiss you. Finding support in this closeness and not fearing the negative judgment of other men, and no one could despise me. The one who calls attention to this aspect of the fraternal relation is, above all, the bride. Through the appellation sister, the bridegroom's words tend to reproduce, I would say, the history of the femininity of the beloved person. They see her still in the time of girlhood. Quote, we have a little sister and she still has no breasts. And by means of this vision that goes back to the past, these words embrace her entire I, soul and body, with a disinterested tenderness. From here, consequently, arises the peace that the bride speaks of. It is the peace of the body, which in appearance resembles sleep. Do not rouse, do not stir up the beloved until she wants it. It is above all the peace of the encounter in humanity as the image of God, and the encounter by means of a reciprocal and disinterested gift. Quote, thus am I in his eyes as the one who has found peace. Song of Songs, chapter 8, verses 10. At this point, those sentences of Genesis chapter 2, verses 23 to 25 can come to mind that seem to reveal for the first time the experience of the masculine and feminine I, born from the common sense of belonging to the Creator as their common Father. Before him, in all the truth of their masculinity and femininity, they were above all brother and sister in the union of the same humanity. Quote, they were both naked but did not feel shame. Genesis chapter 2, verse 25. And this reciprocal relation of brother and sister is constituted in them as the first foundation of the communion of persons, in a certain sense as the constitutive condition of the reciprocal destiny, also in the dimension of the vocation by which they were to become husband and wife. This prototypical beginning of the language of the body in Genesis chapter 2, verses 23 to 25 is wonderfully developed in the Song of Songs. It seems to delineate the dimension of the experience of femininity, or rather of the reciprocal experience of the male and female I, that should consolidate its essential content in every experience, in order that this experience might not detach itself from the richness of the primordial sacrament. In fact, we are carrying out our present reflection under the aspect of sign, the sign of marriage, which is constituted on the basis of the language of the body reread in truth. According to a rather widespread opinion, the verses of the Song of Songs are wide open to all that the concept of eros includes. In another context, we already dealt with various meanings of this concept. See Theology of the Body, Audience 22, paragraph 4, Audience 46, paragraph 4, Audience 47, paragraphs 1 through 6, and Audience 48, paragraphs 1 and 2. If eros expresses itself in subjective transport, in the reciprocal ecstasy, as it were, of the good and the beautiful in love, and through love, of the good and the beautiful of the male and female I, the duet of the spouses and the Song of Songs bears witness precisely to this. It is a fully authentic and original testimony. Authentic and original with the authenticity and originality of Scripture. The terms my sister, my bride seem to arise precisely from this deep level, and only on the basis of that level can they be interpreted adequately. My one and only, my only one is my dove, my perfect one. She is the only one of her mother, the darling of the one who gave birth to her. Song of Songs, chapter 6, verses 9. A garden closed, a fountain sealed. In relation to the preceding theme, which could be called a fraternal theme, another theme emerges in the loving duet of the Song of Songs. Let us say, another deep layer of content. We can examine it by starting from certain phrases that seem to have a key significance in the poem as a whole. This theme, or layer, is never presented explicitly in the Song of Songs. One should rather observe that it passes through the whole poem, though it expressly manifests itself only in a few poetical cadences. This is what the bridegroom says. A garden closed you are, my sister, my bride. A garden closed, a fountain sealed. Song of Songs, chapter 4, verses 12. We cannot limit ourselves to a summary glimpse of the poetic beauty of these metaphors. It is not only a beauty of language, but a beauty of the truth expressed in the language. Just as the name sister carries with itself the whole simplicity of the depth the bridegroom and the bride place in the reciprocal rereading of the language of the body, so the metaphors just quoted seem simultaneously to confirm and surpass what was expressed in the name sister. In the phrase, my sister, my bride, the man unites spousal love, which is just being formed, with a rereading of the language of the body, which is such that the feminine eye speaks to him with its sisterly content. The metaphors just quoted, a garden closed, a fountain sealed, reveal the presence of another vision of the same feminine eye. From the beginning, in fact, femininity determines the mystery about which Genesis speaks in relation to the man's knowledge, that is, to union with the man. Adam united with Eve, his wife, who conceived and gave birth. Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. Although the Song of Songs in its content as a whole does not directly speak about this knowledge or union, nevertheless, the metaphors just quoted remain in indirect but at the same time very strict relation to it. The bride appears to the eyes of the bridegroom as a garden closed and fountain sealed, or she speaks to him with what seems most profoundly hidden in the entire structure of her feminine eye, which also constitutes the strictly personal mystery of femininity. The bride presents herself to the eyes of the man as the master of her own mystery. One can say that both metaphors, garden closed and fountain sealed, express the whole personal dignity of the sex, of that femininity which belongs to the personal structure of self-possession and can consequently decide not only the metaphysical depth, but also the essential truth and authenticity of the personal gift. This gift of self has its dimension when, in view of spousal love, that knowledge of which the book of Genesis speaks must reveal itself. In the Song of Songs, we find ourselves, at any rate, in the vestibule of that union. And precisely for this very reason, the expressions that allow us to grasp its profoundly personal dimension and meaning take on great value. The language of metaphors, poetic language, seems to be especially appropriate and precise in this sphere. The sister bride is for the man, the master of her own mystery, as a garden closed and a fountain sealed. The language of the body, reread in the truth, goes hand in hand with the discovery of the inner inviolability of the person. At the same time, precisely this discovery expresses the authentic depth of the reciprocal belonging of the spouses, the beginning and growing consciousness of belonging to each other, of being destined for each other. My beloved is mine, and I am his. Song of Songs, chapter 2, verse 16. And the same elsewhere. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He pastures his flock among the lilies. Song of Songs, chapter 6, verse 3. This consciousness of reciprocal belonging resounds especially on the lips of the bride. In a certain sense, with these words, she responds to the bridegroom's words with which he acknowledged her as the master of her own mystery. When the bride says, my beloved is mine, she means at the same time, it is he to whom I entrust myself. And therefore she says, and I am his. Song of Songs, chapter 2, verse 16. The apposition, my, affirms here the whole depth of the trust that corresponds to the inner truth of the person. It likewise corresponds to the spousal meaning of femininity in relation to the male I, that is, to the language of the body reread and the truth of personal dignity. The bridegroom states this truth with the metaphor of the garden closed and fountain sealed. The bride answers him with the words of the gift, that is, of entrusting herself. As the master of her own choice, she says, I am for my beloved, or I am my beloved's. The Song of Songs subtly reveals the inner truth of this response. The freedom of the gift is the response to the deep consciousness of the gift expressed in the bridegroom's words. Through this truth and freedom, the love is built up that thus becomes authentic love.